No,
There we go.
All right, we are on. I tell you what, we didn't think we was ever going to get on here. It said it was going to initialize for 2 minutes. It was going to take us 2 minutes to get on here, and we were talking amongst ourselves while that was going on. We just talking about that. Let's talk right now. Let's talk Memphis wrestling, and we're going to specifically talk about January 1980. I'm going to say that if you have not seen this, you can go to ProWrestlingInsideOut.net, and a lot of the videos are going to be on there. Just hit the Memphis Wrestling logo, and you can go over there and see these matches. You can even go over there while we're talking if you want to, and click on them, and just so you can kind of see what we're talking about. Memphis Wrestling in 1980 was really kind of on fire. I mean, they wasn't doing sellout business, but it was a decent little. Jerry Jarrett was doing a great job. Now remember, in January of that year, Jerry Lawler breaks his leg playing football.
Baseball, wasn't it?
Now I think it was football.
Oh, okay.
I think Jerry Calhoun might have been the guy that broke it. I think Jerry Jarrett had told him, "Hey, don't be playing football." He does it. He actually does an interview in June of that year of 1980, and we'll talk about that. Great interview that he does about breaking his leg. They didn't work it into an angle or anything. They just talked about him really breaking it in football, which was very interesting in the world of professional wrestling. But let's take a look at. It really starts on December the 29th, 1979. And it's a TV program. And the only parts of this that I could find was Sonny King and Buddy Wayne against Ricky Morton and Big Red. And the Assassins go against Pat Hutchison and Paul Ellering. Rod, did you see any parts of this?
I did. I did. I thought it was all excellent. All of it was excellent. The Assassins really impressed me. They were really good.
The Assassins at this point is Randy Colley, which people probably know as Moondog or the Champion or the Nightmare, the Mountaineer. So many different names he's had throughout his career. And also Kurt Von Hess, if you know who he is, and I thought I wrote his name down, but I didn't write his name down. William Terry, I believe. But man, they were so good as the Assassins. And they said they were Pittsburgh's best. With those, I thought to myself when they were saying Pittsburgh's best, I was thinking with those accents.
You can tell them the south side of Pittsburgh, and tremendous robes. They look like an Olivia original. That's what they look like.
And they were. They were really good. Jack, can you pick up on January the 1st, 1980, if you've got it up there?
I've got January the 5th.
Well, I'll go January.
I can do that. I can do it.
Wait a minute. I see it. I got it.
Here it comes.
All right. January 1st, 1980. Memphis, Tennessee at the Mid-South Coliseum. Attendance, 6,093. The gate was 16,987. Paul Ellerling beat Buddy Wayne. Big Red beat Tojo Yamamoto. Sonny King beat Ricky Morton. Ricky and Robert Gibson beat the Assassins to win the Southern Tag Team titles. Jerry Lawler and Jimmy Hart beat Ken Lucas and Steve Regal. Jimmy Valiant was the referee in that match. And a note, this was a Tuesday night show.
That's a pretty good. Hey, somebody's calling you about that Mid-South Coliseum card. Now, I know it was a great card.
Well, and that was New Year's night too, so that was tremendous.
That was a tremendous. Ricky and Robert Gibson during this point in time, man, they were a great tag team. All you have to do is go back and watch it. Paul Ellering, I think, had maybe just started. Wasn't the greatest. But man, he already had the gift for gab, didn't he, Rodney?
Sure did. He sure did. He wasn't polished yet, but there was so much potential, definite potential there, and you can see why. Even in the beginning, he looked like an athlete, and you have to admit some of those guys did not.
Are you talking about Pat Hutchinson? Is that the
Pat Hutchinson, yes, yes, and his tag team partner. I don't know if you remember if you saw the match with Ricky Gibson and one of these big gentlemen where Ricky picked him up for a suplex and the guy ended up landing on top of him and looked like it was a brain buster. Exactly what it looked like.
But it looked like Ricky was like, "Oh man, that was
My question I have to ask is, what was Ricky thinking? What did he think that he could suplex this guy? He was going to do the standing suplex, it looked like, and he falling on top of him and DDT in the guy is what it looked like.
we talk about professional wrestling. We talk about things that went on. Listen, January 5th, television in Memphis. This is what you got to see on this program. Ken Lucas against Jimmy Hart from either from Louisville or it was from the Mid-South Coliseum. I think it was from Louisville, Kentucky. Jerry Jarrett against Jerry Lawler, which was a tremendous match. I mean, this match was like again. You can go to prowrestling.net and you can pro wrestling inside and out.net and you can watch this. It's all these programs are on there. Jerry Jarrett versus Jerry Lawler, great match. Ricky and Robert Gibson winning the Southern Tag Team titles from Memphis. So that week prior, they show them winning the titles. There's a Ricky and Robert Gibson match. I didn't put down who they were wrestling against because it wasn't that exciting who they were wrestling. The Mask Assassins had a match as well, and Buddy Wayne and two other guys went against Big Red, Ricky Morton, and Steve Regal. This was all 1, 2, 3, 6 matches in 1 hour. But now the Memphis show was 90 minutes, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was always 90 minutes, but yeah, it was at the end. Probably at this time it was 90 minutes.
But this was the Louisville TV. This was only an hour.
And notice how it was customized for Louisville.
Yeah.
All right. The matches that you saw with Lucas and Jimmy Hart, and the other one was from the Louisville Gardens. Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler, and was a tremendous match, by the way. Lawler and Jarrett was a tremendous match.
It had the stories that we talk about in professional wrestling. They told a great story within that match, and it was so good. And instead of us talking about it, just go over to prowrestlinginsideandout.net and you can go watch those. Rodney, let's talk about January 7th.
All right, we're back at the Mid-South Coliseum. Attendance 4,689 with a gate of 10,423. Buddy Wayne beats Jerry Barber. Jerry Bryant beats Bub Smith. Tremendous physique there, let me tell you. Sonny King beat Paul Ellering. It's Jerry Lawler, Jimmy Valiant, and Jimmy Hart beating Big Red, Steve Regal, and Ricky Morton when Hart pinned Morton 23 minutes, 4 seconds. And the main event, the Assassins beat Ricky and Robert Gibson to win the Southern Tag Team Championship. And then, of course, that match was a mask versus title match. The Assassins ended up winning that one.
Hey, I have to ask the question about this particular time. Steve Regal. Jack, have you ever seen some of the stuff that he did from this time period in Memphis?
Now, this is the Steve Regal that went to AWA.
Yes.
Yes. He was, I thought, a great wrestler.
Yeah.
I never saw him do Memphis stuff back in the day, but I was impressed with him in AWA.
The next TV I couldn't find. Maybe they didn't have one. Maybe it didn't, or maybe they just didn't. It didn't exist, or somebody didn't tape it. But Jack, let's pick up January 14th, 1980.
Memphis, Tennessee, again at the Mid-South Coliseum. Attendance 4,891. A gate of 14,024. Paul Ellerling beat the Grappler. Sonny King beat Larry Harden. Ken Lucas, Ricky and Robert Gibson beat the Assassins and Coach, who was Troy Graham, in 18 minutes, 10 seconds in a hair versus mask match when Robert made the pin.
All right, now there's Steve Regal, Ricky Morton and Big Red beat Jerry Lawler, Jimmy Valiant, and Jimmy Hart in the Three Falls. Bill Dundee was the referee in this match. Rodney, did you see this?
Yes, I did.
Right
Yes, I
after the
did.
match, Bill Dundee makes the pin. He is the one that
Yeah,
made the fall.
Jimmy Hart picks up Ricky Morton for a body slam, and he falls. Jimmy Hart collapses, and Ricky falls on top of him, and then Bill Dundee counts him out. Leg was supposed to rope. I didn't see the foot on the rope, but Bill Dundee makes the count, and then all heck breaks loose.
He takes his at this time. Jerry Lawler was using his elbow pad. He would take it and put it on his fist, and he would hit people with it. Well, he was pounding Bill Dundee with this with this thing. Well, finally, he comes back on him. Gets Bill Dundee gets the little
Elbow pad.
and he has that elbow pad hitting jerk, and the people are whoosh whoosh. The place
What
again,
did you
folks. It's about telling a story, and they told a story.
and what did you think about the belt?
Oh man,
I have a feeling they were laying that in there. They were laying them in there.
Sonny King, Rodney. What did you think about Sonny King?
Sonny King was awesome. Solid wrestling. He did not. It wasn't flashy, but it was solid wrestling. I have to give it to him. He was great in this, and it's the match that started off with Sonny King and Buddy Wayne against Ricky Morton and what was the other guy? Against Ricky Morton
Brad
and
Hutchinson.
yeah, no, it was it was against Ricky Morton, Big Red, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
And he that was a tremendous match. That was a Texas death match on television, and worked out really good. And I thought it was very solid. Nobody harmed in it, as far as I'm concerned. Tremendous match. Ended up with his partner being Betty Wayne being put out with a sleeper by Ricky Morton. Turned out perfect.
Buddy
Turned
Wayne was a
absolutely
solid
perfect.
wrestler too, wasn't
Yes, he was absolutely solid. And in this, I thought that Sonny King was the right kind of aggressive person you would want. He was absolutely perfect in this match.
he? Ken Lucas and Ricky and Robert Gibson against the Assassins and the Coach. Uh, Tremendous match. You get to see the majority of the match, probably the last maybe 6 minutes of the match. Uh, the place goes absolutely crazy when they defeat them, and they actually defeated the coach, and he had to take his mask off. What I thought was so good about that is they took the mask off of him. He goes outside the ring. They put another mask on him, and Ricky Gibson comes back outside the ring, tears that mask off of
Yes,
him.
yes,
It was just tremendous, tremendous wrestling. Great job of Jerry Jarrett. I believe Jerry Jarrett was the one booking at this time, and it was just tremendous, tremendous stuff. I think Bill Dundee was out for 10 weeks because he had hepatitis.
yeah. That's what it
So
said.
so he had just come back. January 19th, 1980, a TV. Steve Regal and Ricky Morton have a match on there. They have a lot of tag team matches. I noticed. Jerry Lawler goes against Paul Ellering for the CWA World Title, and this was when they first Jonesboro, Arkansas, got a new building, and they were having the building. This was what was interesting. Jerry Jarrett comes out, and he says that he's having problems with Jerry Lawler. He can't get a contract signed with them, and he is such a problem. And he says, Paul Ellering, I like him and everything, but he's just starting, and he's not at the level of a of a Steve Regal, or he goes there. Well, Paul Ellering has a problem with that, which I would think he really should have a problem with that. He comes out and has a problem with it. It was good stuff, wasn't it, Rodney?
Yeah, it was done again. It was in a comedy. It was legit. Looked legitimate, absolutely legitimate. And Paul Ellering, he did kind of say he was, not up to the level. He was a great athlete, but he's not up to the level of Ricky Gibson and Big Red and whoever else. Yeah.
There was a Big Red match on there. Big Red I like. I'm not a Big Red fan, but he was good. He was good here. And then from the Coliseum, Jimmy Hart, Jimmy Valiant, and I've got Jimmy Hart down here twice. I guess it was Jerry Lawler.
Jerry Lawler. Mm-hmm.
One against Big Red, Steve Regal, or Ricky Morton. Also great match. And go over there to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out.net, and you can see that. All right, Jack, pick up that January 21st there.
January 21st, Memphis, Tennessee, again at the Mid-South Coliseum. Attendance 4,961 with a gate of 14,024. Paul Ellerling drew with Ricky Morton. Ricky and Robert Gibson beat the Medics. Southern Tag Team champs, the Assassins, by DQ over Ken Lucas and Steve Regal. As a result, the title was held up. Southern champ Jimmy Valiant beat Plowboy Frazier. Bless his heart. Bill Dundee beat CWA champ Jerry Lawler via DQ. As a result, that title was held up.
They held up two titles in one night. They hold up the Southern Tag Team titles. Evidently, there was a double disqualification. Uh, Nothing on television showed any of these matches, though. I noticed, which I think was very smart. Jerry Jarrett didn't always show it, and so you would go, "Oh man, I missed that. They didn't show on television. I guess I better go buy a ticket." Have you noticed? You're talking $10,000 to $14,000 almost every Monday night. They were doing the same thing. They would go to Louisville. They'd do 10,000. They'd go to Evansville and probably do maybe a 6,000. Whoa! What happened, Jack? Somebody attack you there?
Yeah, my cat.
I thought they would. For a minute there, I thought there was we had a concession stand brawl break out because that happens a lot in Memphis. Uh, but we go Saturday, January 26th, 1980 TV. We have a Steve Regal match. We have the Assassins and Coach. They show that match on television against Ken Lucas and Ricky and Robert Gibson. Jimmy Valiant with Jimmy Hart went against Robert Gibson on television. Tremendous match. Tremendous. Jimmy Valiant kind of had a work style about him. He wasn't overly going to do something spectacular, but what he did looked good and was interesting. Bill Dundee had a match on that. Jimmy Valiant, Jimmy Hart, and Jerry Lawler went against Big Red, Steve Regal, and Ricky Morton with special ref Bill Dundee. They showed that from the arena. And Jerry Lawler went against Ricky Morton, and I think that was right before Jerry Lawler gets his leg broke. I don't know that he comes back after this show. And very rarely, even on the shows, as we go by and we talk about February, they very rarely even talk about Jerry Lawler on the show. I don't even know if they do talk about Jerry Lawler on the show. They talk a lot to Billy Robertson. The Assassins had broke his arm, and he's doing the built up every week, talking about coming back against the Assassins. And when he comes back, he ain't going to wrestle anymore. He's going to fight them, and we'll see that happen as it goes by. All right, Rodney, January 28th.
All right, back to the Mid-South Coliseum. Attendance 5,287 with a gate of 13,655. Ricky Morton beats Jerry Bryant. Sonny King drew with Paul Ellering. Ricky and Robert Gibson defeat Sugar Bear Harris and Buddy Wayne. The Assassins beat Ken Lucas and Steve Regal in a no disqualification match. Of course, where that was the titles were held up. And in the main event, Jackie Fargo and Bill Dundee beat Jerry Lawler and Jimmy Valiant by disqualification.
When you look at this very solid month, January is a very solid month for Memphis Wrestling, Championship Wrestling. Lance Russell, Dave Brown were so good together. Jack, as far as their commentary style, it worked for that Memphis territory.
Yeah.
And Dave Brown was better than you when you watch the shows. Dave Brown was really, really good.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is Dave Brown did the commentary in the matches.
Most time, yeah.
Lance Russell didn't do the commentary. Lance Russell handled
Lance did the house shows.
Yeah.
If you'll notice, Lance did all the house shows.
It's very interesting. But that's January 1980, Memphis Wrestling. Tremendous stuff. And we'll be coming back with another video soon. February. And I've already watched. It was so good. I already watched all the episodes. It was just tremendous stuff. Let's talk right now about the rules of wrestling, Jack. Of the National Wrestling Alliance, for that, the rules. A lot of people talk about rules in professional wrestling. They had rules, but it wasn't as people say, "Oh, I can't work with rules in wrestling," but there was not that huge. Let's talk about them a little bit, Jack. What are the rules of the National Wrestling Alliance in the 1970s and early 80s?
What we have here, I don't. Does it have a specific date? 1974. They updated the ropes. The count on the floor was no longer a 20 count; it went to a 10. The rule went into effect August the 11th, 1973, and as we know, nobody anywhere, everywhere has ever changed that. Uh, Intentional striking of the referee will result in an automatic disqualification or suspension. No hair pulling, no eye gouging, no strangleholds or biting. I may have done that last one. No pulling of trunks, mask, or any other equipment. No straight punches or kicks with the point of the toe. A note, contestants who repeatedly violate any of the above rules will be disqualified, and the following violations are automatic disqualifications. Number one, throwing the opponent over the top rope. Two, karate thrusts to the throat. Three, the pile driver hold. Four, failing to break an illegal hold before the referee's 5 count. Five, the use of any foreign object, or politically correct, I guess we call it international now. Number six, any interference with the duties of the referee. Seven, continuing to abuse a defeated opponent. Eight, any interference by managers, seconds, or cornermen. Nine, the tag team save rule. Automatic disqualification when one team member saves another on any sure pinning or submission combination more than once. 10, no intentional punching or kicking in the groin or kidney area. The following maneuvers are legal. Judo chops, forearm blows, bolo punches, instep, and flat of foot kicks. Number two, the use of the ropes to gain leverage. Contestants may spring against ropes, as in tackles and other such maneuvers, providing the contact with the rope is momentary. And number three, it is legal to continue wrestling your opponent until he is clearly entangled in ropes and the referee calls for a break. Wrestlers caution to protect themselves on the break. I don't think any of the good guys ever read that part. Contestants will get 10 counts on the apron of the ring and 10 on the floor. Championships cannot change hands when the victory is gained by disqualification. In any situation not covered by these rules, the NWA will honor the judgment and discretion of the appointed referee.
Very simple rules. And were put in effect. And some places would also have a top rule that if you went from the top rope on a prone opponent, it was most of the time on a prone opponent from the top rope, you would be automatically disqualified. And they would usually do an angle or something where somebody would get hurt, carried out, be gone for a couple of weeks, and then they would make sure that rule was in. And then about 3 weeks later, somebody would come off the top rope, win the match, and the people would be mad. It was there for a reason. Bob Armstrong always said if you don't have rules to break, then you don't really have any bad guys because you can't have them. You have to have rules, and that's very important. And rules are there for story. And I think the National Wrestling Alliance. Now, I think some changed as years went. They changed some. They maybe added a couple. But really, Jack, you wrestled. What is so hard about following those certain rules in wrestling?
I don't know. I don't understand how we got away from that, because back when I started, we had referees like Dad, like so many others that were so good back then. When they got on to a bad guy, crowd would cheer them.
Yeah.
Now you don't even really see a referee in there until the false pins or the actual pin of the match occurs. Uh, but and referees, I'm not saying they were in the way in any way back in the day. In fact, they had made an art form out of staying out of the way unless they didn't need to. But they always were that authority figure. It was everything, every wrestler had a great level of respect. You can say that, whether it's fear or respect, according to which side of the fence you wrestled on. It just made the matches so much simpler when the referee helped the psychology of the match go along. And honestly, most of the time, the referees were the ones telling you what to do in there anyway.
Rodney, rules in professional wrestling. What happened?
Well, once it went to sports entertainment, the rules went out the door. All right, we were seeing chairs and tables and whatever else the WWE has underneath the ring.
Yeah.
We saw later on Kevin Sullivan absolutely disregard rule number 10. This was, in case you didn't get rule number 10. Number 10 was no intentional punching or kicking in the groin or kidney area. He didn't go for the kidneys, so it was the other area that he favored. And so there you go. But no, this is the way the games is played, and the fact is, and I think Bob Armstrong was absolutely right. If you do not have these, you're not going to get any heat. That's the reason they can do the same old crap over and over again. That's the reason we'll have the 500th contract signing, because there's no, and it's an art form to be able to get past the referee. I mean, pulling hair. I mean, how many times hey, pull his hair, referee? We don't worry about that anymore. It's over. That is over for now, because they don't enforce that rule. And they don't enforce counts either, from what I see. I mean, when you're up on and I've seen them, they're up on the ropes for past the count of 5 easily. In lots of these times, especially when they're doing the superplex or whatever else kind of dive nonsense that they're doing from the top rope. In fact, they should have already been counted out in most cases for being on the rope too.
I blame Scott Irwin for all that.
It might be. Well, he did it within the 5 count, though, didn't he?
I don't know. I didn't like it back in the 80s when he did it. When did he start doing that? Maybe 83, 82?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah.
Well, Charlie and Red hated it because they had to always go get new boards.
They busted boards every time.
Always bust the boards. Back then, they had actually plywood. They didn't have the 2x4s, whatever they're called. Yeah. They didn't have them in there. They just had plywood, and they'd break them every time. And Charlie always would tell Scott, he said, "Well, we got to go get a couple of more of them boards. We're going to make you pay for them this time." Since you keep on breaking them, because he would break them. And that tells you what kind of force that the guy came from the top rope to that mat was taken. I'm pretty sure there were some guys in this world. I saw a guy just the other day, and Jack, you might know who he is. One of the guys that's going to be on the show Saturday, April 6th, he took a suplex off the top rope, and he didn't get back up from it. He just laid there, and I think he told the guys, "I don't think I can get back up," because that is a really very dangerous move.
Yeah, should be.
You think about it, because sometimes some guys said it actually didn't hurt when I hit. It's when the ring bounced back up and hit me. That was
the rebound is always the worst part of a big bump.
And so it was something. But that is the National Wrestling Alliance rules, which will be in effect on Saturday, April 6th, when we have that show in Hansfield, Alabama. So if you love professional wrestling, old school professional wrestling, get your tickets for that. Let's talk about something that I saw the other day. Bill Goldberg, I have to talk about him for just a second, because, Jack, did you happen to see the video that Rudy Gonzalez shared where he actually dropped 2 separate people on their heads?
Yeah, Ming, who of all the people that you would want to do something wrong to in professional wrestling business, that is not the guy. Yeah, it was. Man, I've never seen anything as bad from a top level guy. Of course,
Yeah.
young guys, whatever. I've seen plenty of them do the same thing, but not somebody who's supposed to be a top level star. And the older I get, the more I understand why Bret Hart is still so bitter.
I mean, because when you see him, he takes Jimmy Hart from the top rope, and instead of slams him, he just kind of he actually dumps him on his head.
Yeah,
It's like he meant to do it.
yeah. It was more like he was throwing him like a dart than trying to rotate him.
Yeah. I,
Yeah, it was awful, and dropped Ming on his head right before that.
yeah. And he
And
should not, but they should have took him out of the ring then and said, "Sorry, Bill, you're not ready. You're gone." Because he ultimately was going to hurt somebody bad, and he eventually did in Bret Hart. I guess that could have been after Bret Hart. I don't know.
no, I believe that was before, if I remember it correctly. But yeah, yeah, it just, and I know why they kept pushing him because they wanted money.
Yeah.
For them, it was a business decision of he's a cash cow right now. But I would have heard him set up some kind of angle, send him back for 6 weeks to that training school, and make him work from daylight till dark every day till he learned how to do the simple stuff.
And what he did was the simple stuff. Should not have been hurting people. Roddy, have you seen this?
No, I have not seen it, but
Well,
I'm not surprised because as we get into the wrestling business, they're not concerned with taking care of the other guy. All they're doing is trying to
I
make him
don't I
feel good.
don't know that he even understood that concept that that's what he's supposed to do.
I don't think he did
There's a lot of guys in the business that they're only there to make themselves look good,
Yeah,
look,
exactly.
and they don't understand. They just don't get it.
The Steiners never really got it. They didn't understand. Don't hurt people because you can. Because somebody gave them their body,
Yeah,
and now you're going out there trying to hurt them. And that at least Sting never did that.
no,
You got to give Sting the credit he's there. He did not try to go out and hurt people. He did protect people.
and he listened
Yeah.
to the Ric Flairs and everybody that got in the ring with him. That's the key difference with him is that he listened and he learned along the way. He knew just enough to get by with when he started, and management was smart enough to put him. They knew he was going to be money, but they put him in there with guys that could lead him. And eventually, the guy, he was never going to be the greatest wrestler in the world, but he could go out there and do some stuff.
Rodney Eddie Gilbert being put with them in UWF was probably the changing
Well,
point of.
absolutely. Actually, not just being put with him, being as a tag team partner.
Yeah,
Because at first Eddie was the manager. That's not the same as getting in the ring and wrestling. Working with the guy. That made the difference. That was what changed his career, the trajectory of his career for sure. Once Eddie Gilbert got in there and he learned his craft at that point. It's as I always, I can always take it back to when Arn Anderson teamed with Jerry Stubbs. Same exact thing happened. That the light switch were turned on, and here we have a star. I think that happened with Sting.
Sting and Eddie Gilbert were a great tag team, and Eddie really did help them a lot because he would tell them, "You need to do it this way. You need to slow down. You need to," and he listened to Eddie Gilbert,
yeah.
and that I think that was the thing, the difference between him and Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior wouldn't listen to anybody, while Sting would, even though they messed up a very simple finish in one of the spot shows one time, and we had to tell him. We had to say, "Listen, you messed up that simple pull the leg finish." You didn't even get that one. And that was, and I'll never forget Eddie Gilbert said, "Look at these stooges over here, stooging on that." So
How did you? Yes, Dad. They asked Dad, how did you know that we messed that up? Well,
The old Stooges was in there saying it, so they did get it right the next time. Though I think the very next night they were.
Yeah, he looked back there at us. He found us. Eddie Gilbert found us, and he said, "We're gonna get it right tonight."
Simple finish. It was a simple finish that Bob Armstrong. It was a Bob
And
Armstrong.
and here's the thing: when it was messed up, ladies and gentlemen, they all didn't stop in the middle of the ring and stand and look at each other and talk to each other. Okay, they adapted and they fixed it.
I got to talk about The Rock for just a second. How good this is. Jack, have you seen the stuff that he's doing?
I've watched every bit of it.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Just fantastic. I don't know if the rest of the show is worth the crap, but that stuff is so good. When he went out there and told the people in Utah, listen, y'all just sit there with your 5 wives. and he said, and your 600 illegitimate grandchildren or inbred grandchildren, I just thought, man, this is a heel. This is, and you don't,
And
it's just so good.
the thing that struck me while I'm watching this, the greatness that he was doing out there, was that you had Roman and
Paul Heyman,
Paul Heyman,
Jimmy,
Sequoia, and Jimmy, all sitting there or standing there next to the ropes. And it's like The Rock took up 3/4 of the ring.
Yeah.
And that was because he is such a, I don't know if they did this intentionally, but he was such a dominant power out there that, as great as this whole bloodline angle has been, it's like everything in that company pales to The Rock right now. That's who
Is
people want to see.
is this equivalent to the NWO and Hulk Hogan? Now The Rock is part of this. Because did people think that was going to happen?
Uh, no, and it's, I still laugh about how they think, they're all over the internet about, oh, well, The Rock wasn't getting over, so they had to pivot. And I'm telling you, I mean, I've not talked to Road Dogg, and even if I did, I wouldn't ask him anything. But I firmly believe that this is the plan they started last year working towards. I mean, the one thing that I have read that came out by several reputable sites was that first night after Cody uh, 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 gave in to let The Rock have that match, at the next TV taping, WWE themselves were passing out signs that said, go Cody, go. Cody needs the match. All this kind of stuff. They were everywhere, and they were all printed by WWE because they were manipulating people, which is what we do.
Yeah.
You know, and any form of entertainment is like that. Um, but it's just, it's so well put together,
Yes.
and I think, while we're on that subject, if WWE could, and this is a matter of, could Triple H get away from the comedy stuff? I think he wants to, but look at how great a serious programs from top to bottom would be.
Yeah.
You know that, and this is what draws the most. This whole Rock thing, it draws more than anything that they've done in years and years and years.
Ronnie, what do you think about the stuff? I don't watch the rest. Is the rest of the stuff any good? Because I haven't watched the rest of
if you're like 500 finishes in one match, yeah,
Yes,
false
that's
finish. I mean, it's just Cody and Drew McIntyre. I mean, what was left? I would assume the Coyote had the dynamite under the ring and was about to blow up the ring. I mean, seriously. And then that finished the Cody's reverse neck breaker, the worst finish of all time. I mean, he's not big enough to do that anyway. It's just, I mean, I'm not a Cody fan anyway, but that's another story. But that match was just monotonous, and then we had the run-in at the end and the whole thing. It's all right. But what they're doing with The Rock, they're still making him a star. He's not being overexposed throughout the entire show. You're not seeing repeatedly throughout the show. They're still keeping him as the star, and when he comes out there, just like he did before, he makes everybody look small, including Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
He made him look small the other night. I'm not talking about as far as size wise, but I'm talking about in the size of a star. The attention,
Yes.
all the attention was to Rock, and he was just an afterthought, which, from my point of view, will lead to Roman and The Rock breakdown. Because Roman for the last 2 years has been the center of attraction. Now he's not, and even though The Rock is a part of their group, you're going to start seeing jealousy, I think, between Roman and The Rock. That's what I'm getting,
Yeah.
because and because Jack pointed out, he pointed out just perfectly. They stood over, not walking around. They all went all the way to the end of the ring with Paul Heyman in like a little group, and The Rock held the rest of the ring by himself. None of them come to him. None of them walked to him. He was the man. It was very well done. Whoever's putting this together, great job. Absolutely great job.
I believe The Rock is doing that.
Well, God bless him.
Well, he brought what's that guy's name? Brian Gerwitz, that was always wrote his stuff. He's back on the writing staff.
Yeah, I think he made sure he brought, because he did write great stuff for The Rock.
He sure did.
You
He
have
sure
to
did.
give him. He wrote good stuff for The Rock. Uh, just
This
entertaining.
will what they have done. They have all attention. All attention is on the WWE right now. It doesn't matter. Sean is exactly right that Vince McMahon understood controversy. Controversy equals cash, and right now all eyes is on the WWE and what they're doing. Just tremendous stuff right now, and they've sucked out everything. Basically, everybody's going Tony who.
Uh, it's so amazing that WWE selling $10,000 to $12,000 worth of tickets, and AEW can't
Ten
even
to twelve
sell,
thousand. No, not dollars. Seats.
seats, while AEW can't even fill like 2,200 to 3,200
This
seats.
this
And
goes
we
with
don't even know if that's sold.
5 years. What is it now? 5 years has nothing to show for it.
Well,
Not one star.
you
Nothing.
know,
It's just the same with
Tony
TNA. Go ahead.
Tony is concentrating on. He's trying to get those niche fans. I don't. He's not going broadly, which is I think his biggest mistake, because he's bringing these guys in from Japan. He's bringing these groups in from Mexico, and I follow wrestling, uh, but they're not doing nothing for me. By the time they get to TV, there's still no stories going on to entertain me with them. I don't care how good a guy is, you still don't have any breakout stars there,
No, no. That's
And that's the thing. You can't. There's no head for that company.
and that's the same exact position TNA found themselves when Jarrett was there. The same exact point. I know me and Bill Dundee were riding up the road. We were working for the circus, and Bill was going to do one of these radio programs, and he asked them, "What star does TNA have?" And they rattled off AJ Styles. He said, "Well, where's he drawing at? Where's the big ratings at? Where's the big show at? He's not on one. He's simply not on it." So if it's been happening, I haven't seen it. Nobody's seen it. It must be his own mind, apparently. But and he, of course, Bill got heat with the people that were doing doing the show, because, oh, how dare you? They're doing great stuff. I'm sorry, you have to deal with reality, and the reality is they didn't have anybody then. AEW has nobody now. By the way, Sasha Banks went, and apparently she's going to be doing laundry for Tony Khan, because just as well didn't get anything, didn't change anything.
Yeah,
Uh, and Sting, Ric Flair, none of them. Ric Flair's been there, and nobody even really cares.
No.
I had a story with that, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Nash is upset that the WWE will not allow him to join Sting in his final match. He's very upset about that.
He should send him a thank you note for keeping him away from that train that's
And
going off a cliff.
in this story, though, the funny part of the story wasn't the fact that the Kevin Nash was going, that Kevin Nash was not being able to be there. The funny thing is that the reporter who was writing the article kept calling Sting the icon. Is Sting an icon?
Well, that's what AEW calls him.
Oh, is that he's the icon?
He's the icon Sting.
What?
Yeah.
He's the icon of what?
Not ratings.
Well, I mean, think about it, and please chime in, insiders. Name a historic match of Sting.
If there is one, it would involve Ric Flair.
That's that's one.
Yeah.
But that was that Sting or was that Ric Flair?
Because Ric Flair was involved.
You put him over, basically. He made him a star. Now he made him a star. But if you take anything else, you can't find anything that you're going to see Sting. You're not going to have no match. Well, you'll say, well, you know what? My great match was Sting versus a ring post. It didn't happen. You don't have one. But they were calling him. They're calling the icon. I wonder where that came from. I don't watch the show, and I thought, how funny.
Sting really never drew money in WCW. He did when you put him in a situation with Ric Flair or a Stan Hansen or someone in that. But if you didn't have a named wrestler to go against him,
he was not Hulk Hogan.
He wasn't Hulk Hogan. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't Randy Savage. He wasn't Roddy Piper that could be put on the cards and draw because they were on the cards.
But I found that to be funny that they're calling him the icon.
I mean, unfortunately, that's the truth. We were there in the early '90s when we was on a lot of cards, didn't draw with Sting. So I just, unfortunately, that was what was going on. All right, let's talk to the people right now. Richard Hood is with us. He said, "Good evening, gentlemen." Donnie Hester is with us as well. Kevin Penley is with us. Welch and Jarrett Promotions. Yeah, they were making a big deal of Buddy Fuller.
Yes.
There.
That's because they had Buddy doing the matchmaking. Jerry was doing the promotion, and he was coming out of retirement. Apparently, he was working every single week in Louisville.
Jerry Jarrett was in Tupelo, Mississippi, almost every Friday night. When he was at the shows, business was always good. Anytime the owner was at the show, when they quit going to the shows, they quit.
I agree, and the shows were solid shows, the wrestling shows as well.
Kevin Penley wasn't Roger Smith a Memphis Assassin too? He was, but not at this point in time. We'll have to see when he was, because I'm not for certain when he was. Probably in the '80s, and sometime in the '85.
Yeah, because there's another set of assassins that's managed by Jimmy Hart later on, and they go against Austin Idol and Jerry Lawler.
How about those New York Assassins?
They were good.
One of them, I think, was Boris Zukov. Or Zukov, however you say his name.
He changed his name.
Jim.
He changed his name to Zukov, from Zurkov to Zukov for obvious reasons.
Wayne First could never get that right. He had to be.
They have to beep it every time.
And Pensacola so many times because he couldn't get that name right. Who was the first wrestler to play Lord Humongous? It was not Sid. It was actually Mike Stark, wasn't it?
Mike Stark was the first guy.
Sure and was. Then came Jeff Van Camp, then Sid. And then after that, I'm pretty sure there was many other people who've done Lord Humongous.
Well, legitimately doing it, Sid was the last. Even Bull Buchanan did it, for a little while.
Richard Hood, Ricky Gibson should have been NWA champion. Ricky Gibson was really good.
He was.
I wrestled Ricky Gibson.
They did this. They did this thing where Robert had pinned one of the guys. Ricky comes running, steps on top of Robert, and gives a drop kick to one of the assassins.
Great stuff.
The place explodes. And guess what, folks? They didn't talk about that. He just probably said, "Hey, there it is.
Yeah.
I can do it."
Yep.
They were so good. I don't think Robert Gibson gets the credit he gets, and it's because Ricky Morton was so. What Ricky Morton was so way up there as far as personality went
Yeah.
that he overshadowed Robert to a certain extent. But man, Robert was so good.
Mhm.
Go back and watch the stuff that he is a part of. He is so good. I mean, it's just and I even sometimes would say, well, I don't, but I don't know. When you go back and look at it, I don't think Ricky Morton would have been what he was if it wasn't for Robert. Because Robert
Well,
had to sell. He knew how to make the comebacks. And
Robert and I had this discussion a while back, and I asked him. I said, "Why didn't you ever really try as a singles?" And he said, "Look," he said, "we recognized right away that me and Ricky had a thing that we got over. That he did certain things, I did certain things. We didn't have to kill ourselves in the process, but we were main event just about everywhere we went, and the money came with it." He said, "Neither one of us were going to mess that up." Okay, he said, "Because at the end of the day, glory don't pay your bills."
I think Ricky Gibson and Robert Gibson were a better tag team than Ricky Morton.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But they were brothers. And I think Ricky pretty well called the the stuff and said, "This is
Yeah.
what we're going to do," and it was just great stuff. Daniel Lang, I believe Roger Smith and Kurt Von Hess were the assassins. No, it was actually Randy Colley and Kurt Von Hess. It was that Roger Smith was not there yet, uh, and we just know this because of people.
Now, that was a tag team that could get over in any era. That team, not you don't necessarily have to call them assassins. They were good. They were just good, very
Yeah.
good, well polished tag team.
Well, if you think about it, Randy Colley leaves there and goes to Atlanta and becomes the assassin with Jody Hamilton. And it wasn't too long after this that he ends up there as the assassin. So evidently Jody looked at him and said that was all right. Now I don't know where Kurt Von Hess ended up at. I'd have to go look at that. Richard Hood say David Schultz, Dennis Condrey. They're not there yet, but they're on their way. And we'll talk about what they say to Robert Gibson in this thing. David Schultz, Dennis Condrey did some interviews that were very, very blunt and was really strong interviews. Probably the strongest interviews I think I've ever heard wrestlers do. And it was very strong against Jerry Jarrett. It was very strong against Buddy Fuller. It was very good, and we'll talk about that as they get there more around March of 1990. Kevin Penley, Tojo Yamamoto trained two world champions in Tommy Rich and Sid, world tag team champion Bobby Eaton, and a basketball player. But Tommy Rich said that Tojo did have something to do with it, but it was mostly Jerry Jarrett that trained
Yeah.
Tommy. Tojo, they teamed him with him, and that had to help him
Yeah.
for psychology reasons
Yeah.
because Tommy was really good when he started.
Well, me and my old partner Monty, when we were doing the Heartbreakers thing, we worked a lot at Tennessee and against Fire and Flame, and Tojo was the manager. And every time we would have a match, when the match was over, we'd go back in the dressing room, and of course, we'd go over and thank them for the match and everything, because they're the veterans then. And Tojo would always sit with us and tell us what we did wrong, what we did right, what we need to work on. Every time, he was always such a nice guy, but I'm telling you, he will beat the crap out of you with that stick.
If I was Tojo, I would never said I trained Sid.
Take no
I'm going to tell you
I take
what.
no responsibility for that at all.
If you're not on Twitter, X, whatever it is now, Sid is on there. And he makes some of the funniest tweets. Like this morning, it was, I hope everybody has a great day except Ryback. You don't deserve a great day ever. It just some of the funniest stuff.
Sid could have been a huge star, though. He could have
Oh,
been
yeah.
the star, but something just kept on. I don't think he got hurt a lot, did he? I mean, I think
No.
he just left and went and played softball.
He just loves softball.
Yeah, those
He doesn't look uh, like he used to, but he looks good. He looks healthy. I'm happy for him.
I always liked Sid.
Oh yeah,
Always.
always one of the nicest guys to me.
Although he got mad at us one time when we told, and he actually left the restaurant we were in because we said these are the words we said. Dad had just had a heart attack and was in the hospital. And Dad said, "Sid, sit down with us." And Bob Polk was with us, I think. And these are the words he said. He said, "Dad said, well, dang, kids are mad." And Sid said, "What are they mad about?" He said, "Well," he said, I got some pretty good life insurance and everything, and they thought that I was going to die, so they both went and bought 2 Cadillacs. Now they have to return them." Sid got mad and got up and left the restaurant. I'll never forget that.
It was mad. I thought he might turn that table over.
I did it because he actually hit the table, got up, went out of the restaurant, and didn't even get his food that he ordered. I'm thinking, my gosh, it was a joke. Jeremy Richter, Mr. Electricity. He wasn't Mr. Electricity yet.
No.
Steve, I want you to notice something, Roddy. What did you notice about the crowd in Memphis?
I'm sorry, you'll have to be more specific.
A lot of women in that.
That's correct. There are.
Yeah.
More women than there were men in that crowd.
And kids. There were kids in there.
Yeah,
too.
there were kids there. There were men too. But there were a lot of women there in that territory. Hasso said, "Good evening, folks. Kayla
Mears Quimby.
Hey, guys. Hope it's all is well. How you doing?"
Kayla is the one who's putting that show together that I am coming out of retirement to participate in.
Right.
And then she gave me a heart attack the other day when she said I was main event.
All right, what's that date again? What's that date again for that show?
March the 9th.
March 9th. Where's it at again?
Rogersville,
Alabama. Go to Jack's. I think Jack's got it on his.
Yeah, I'll be reposting it later tonight. So yeah.
All right, and then once you post it, I'll put it over there on our Facebook page.
Okay.
Jeff Dobbs, is this Buddy Wayne? Nick Wayne said no. That would be.
Speaking of Nick Wayne, Nick, I've got you a perfect opponent. Brogan Finley. You'll both weigh the same. Should be fantastic match.
No, this is Buddy Wayne. Actually, his son would be Kenny Wayne, Mass Nightmare.
And Buddy was a tremendous promoter as well. One of the funniest people you've ever met, Buddy Wayne.
Ken Wayne's son also wrestles somewhere. I don't keep up with him anymore. But anyway.
I don't know. Is Ken Wayne still in prison?
No, he's out. He's just laying low, as he should.
I didn't know if he was still in prison or not because I knew he'd win.
No, he got out of
Buddy Wayne. I have to tell a story about Buddy Wayne. Buddy Wayne was a promoter, and if there was for some reason someone was larger than others, he would make the larger people leave the arena so he could get 2 people in that spot. He would actually do this. This was a deal.
I think it was. Did you not? Was it Dutch Man? Tell us that.
Yeah, Dutch Mantel told us the story, and we said, "You got to be kidding!" He said, "No, I watched him do it. I watched him go out and go, all right, you out. I can get 2 people in this spot." That's what he would do. Now that is absolutely horrible. Buddy Wayne though was a funny man. He would have you laughing. I had the opportunity to talk to him a few times, and one time he was in Dothan, and man, he had me going the whole night. I just loved Buddy. Buddy was just and he was a promoter. He promoted a lot of spot shows for Jerry Jarrett, uh, and made a great amount of money off of 4 or 5 of those a month.
Yeah.
Just tremendous. Daniel Lane has got a wrestling trivia. I almost said wrestling trivia. So I'm way down in the southern parts of Tennessee. Wrestling trivia channel. Steve Regal's father-in-law was Vern Gagne, Nick Bockwinkel, William Snyder, or Dick the Bruiser.
I think we should let's go ahead let's not pass this opportunity up. Let's go ahead and answer because we may skip to the end. We don't get back to it. So let's answer it now.
Jack,
I think it's Wilbur Snyder.
Rodney,
Wilbur Snyder.
Wilbur Snyder. I'm going to say that too.
And we know this because we hung out with his girls.
Yes, yes.
When we met Atlanta.
Miss
Great guy.
your
Beautiful
three
family.
show. Glad you're back from Jeff Dobbs. Let's see, Richard Hood, guys. Remember the Jerry Lawler contract renewal with Jerry Jarrett?
Yeah, I think it's coming up, isn't it?
Yes, it is coming up. Eddie Marlin is the one that was able to get that contract, not Jerry Jarrett. And it's a great interview. I think maybe it is. I'll probably be putting that on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out.net. You can hit Memphis in the next couple of days. The interview that he does, it's so good. Johnny West. I knew Ricky Gibson back on the early 70s while being good friends with his brother Robert, along with Ken Lucas. Back in the good old days in Pensacola, Florida, Ken Lucas, he would really whip your tail. I mean, he was rough on people. There's video coming up where Ken Lucas hits people. He hits the assassins with boards. Man, he was not holding back when he was hit. Ken Lucas
I
was
like Ken Lucas. I love Ken Lucas. Great wrestler. Great.
Let's see, Mickey Mayfield. If you were offering
offended.
AEW or WE, Jack, would you become a manager?
Definitely not AEW. I just, especially at this stage in my life, my standards are just not. There's not enough money out there to make me want to change my standards about the way I see the business. WWE, I wouldn't want a manager job. I sure would like to have a job though, with creative or something.
I think it would be more. You'd be more out to stay than you would. Richard Hood said, "Big Red with a Holy Ghost splash." I love when Lance Russell would say the Holy Ghost. Lance Russell was so good because he just leaned down like this. He'd have that microphone in his hand. Oh boy, here we go, Dave. We're gonna have a great show today, right here on Championship Wrestling. All right, how long was that match again? 5:40. He was so laid back and so just. I mean, it wasn't.
He was in the same vein as Les Thatcher, Gordon Soley, Charlie Platt. He was having a conversation with you.
But when he dealt, especially with the heels, and he would get excited or he'd get mad at them or whatever, the whole crowd felt it and they reacted to him.
They did. It was.
He was as good as any of the guys.
Hasso said Big Red gets a lot of
ribbing, undeserved
ribbing about his skill. Thought he was good. What he was hired for. I like Big Red, but here's the thing: Big Red. I think I have just a little. Columbus, Georgia. He goes to Columbus, Georgia. Our father, Ron West, is the person booking the show in Columbus because Ole or whoever was booking didn't like to take care of Columbus. Dad was there. The match was going to be Big Red and Super Destroyer, Scott Irwin. Big Red, he goes and gives him the finish, and Big Red says, "No, I'm not putting Scott Irwin over. I'm not putting him over." Dad says, "What? No, I'm not putting him over." Well, Dad fires him. He says, "You're fired. Go home. You're fired." They book him back into the Omni against, of all people, Scott Irwin. And Dad says, "I can't believe they're booking him back here." Well, listen, people can say what they want to about wrestling fans, but they know when it's real and when it's not. And the people knew Scott Irwin, I mean, really beat him bad. I mean, it was bad. And the people, it was a hushed silence in that building. People, because people were looking at you and say, "No, this ain't, this is real." I feel bad for Big Red. I don't think that should have happened. I don't think it should have happened. I think they should have. But why would you put him back with a guy that you said you wouldn't put him over? He didn't get fired.
Mhm.
Big Red didn't get fired. But man, that was a bad situation at the time. But you didn't tell people you weren't going to put them over. Because if you had to wrestle them again, that is bad business for you. Because you might get hurt. I mean, Jack, if someone said, "I'm not putting you over," and you might have put them over 20 times. What's your thoughts
I,
on that?
I was going over. And I've been in that situation. And I handled it like Scott did.
Yeah,
You
you could.
don't tell people you're not going to put people over.
Yes, we were in attendance,
Yes, we were.
and all we could hear sitting way back where we were at was thump, 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 and that was Scott Irwin's fist pounding up against his face.
And you know what's so bad? Ole was there.
Hmm.
And you know, Ole wasn't a stupid man because Ole didn't say one word to Scott Irwin. Not one
I
word.
bet.
I do believe Scott Irwin says you better not say one word.
And Ole knew Scott Irwin would whip him just like he just got through whipping Big.
He said you better not say one word. Walk
And he
right on
shouldn't have
by.
done that. He shouldn't have. He should. You know, you should never because I think Scott had put Big Red over several times prior to that, and I didn't understand it, and I guess I got a little bit against him because he told our father, "No, I'm not going to do what you say," uh, and because Buzz Sawyer did the same thing. But now Buzz Sawyer was later told, if Ronnie West tells you it's raining outside and it is sunny, you better go get you a raincoat and get you a umbrella. Because whatever he says, you're going to do it. All right? There's no doubt about it. All right, Jimmy James, for the love of strapless black dress and spandex, what's causing all?
I am the master of spandex.
Is it true for WrestleMania, the Bloodline versus Cody and Seth, winner gets both belts, or is this fake news?
I haven't heard anything at all about that.
Uh, I'm gonna say no to that because normally all their big shows have always been single matches. Very rare is it tag match,
If
especially at WrestleMania.
if and I don't think, even though I was a big proponent last year for Cody winning because he was so hot, I understand why they didn't, and I understand why they haven't put the belt on him yet. And I don't think they're going to put the belt on him at WrestleMania, especially if that's going to be a tag match. You know, you got SummerSlam coming. There's just as important shows coming up besides WrestleMania to make the story work.
Kevin Penley says, I remember the old Goulas wrestlers, George Strickland, George Holtz, Tom Drake. I remember Tom Drake. Leon Chandler, and Billy Wicks.
I
Billy
remember all
Wicks.
those names. I knew Tom. Tom used to come whenever I'd wrestle in Coleman. He'd always come out to see me.
Wasn't he like a governor or a
He
senator?
was the state representative, and he was over the House for a lot of number of years. He was a lawyer, had a law practice long after his political career. He still kept his law firm going. His son has it now, as a matter of fact.
Billy Wicks, Sputnik Monroe sold out Memphis many, many times. Even big stadiums back in the day. Billy Wicks. So, Jimmy James, Mercy, and the Boogie Woogie Man. Yeah. Hey, how many times did they turn Jimmy Valiant there?
Well,
I
how
mean,
many times did they turn anybody there?
they turned him a lot though. Like in a
In
year, he just went back and forth, like 3 or 4 times.
'84, he was with. Were they still Georgia Championship Wrestling then, or had they turned to WCW? I don't remember, but I remember they. I was stationed in Fort Stewart, Georgia, and there was a high school, Jasper, Georgia high school, which was about an hour from me, and the only one they advertised was Jimmy Valiant. It was, I guess, their B show, and that place was absolutely packed. I went because I had never seen Jimmy Valiant in person at that point. And I'm going to tell you, he alone was worth the ticket price. I have never seen a man do so little with, or do so much with so little uh, in a match. I mean, the match itself didn't last 3 minutes, but him going around the ring and out in the crowd and everything, that took 20 minutes. It was great. It was absolutely one of the most fun times I ever had at the show, and the rest of the show wasn't bad.
Anita is with us. Hello, guys. Been a while since we've seen Anita. Johnny West on here. I think her father was called that one time. Was the one that his name in Gulf Coast?
Yes.
I remember the medics when I was setting up the ring. They worked for Lee Fields, Gulf Coast Wrestling from Johnny West. Richard Hood, Tommy Rich, and his mother, in the angle with Jimmy Valiant, which happens in 1980 as well. A lot of stuff happens. Oh, come on, Brent. What was I talking about? I wonder. Not for sure what I was talking about. We need Randy Hales on here. He just probably try to cause some kind of grief if he's on here. He's a grief. Had me on his show one time, and he was trying his best to get me to say stuff bad about people. Jimmy James Robertson had a great run in Montreal area versus the late great Dino Bravo, Lord Hayes with Robertson. Incredible title matches all over Quebec. Sugar Bear Harris would later become. He was from Uganda. Yeah, he's from Uganda. Hey, you know something? Sugar Bear Harris really good in this time period. Took some great bumps. Later on, people said, "Well, he didn't take well because he's Ugandan John. He wasn't supposed to take any."
Yeah.
That was his gimmick. He wasn't supposed to take, like Andre was not supposed to take bumps for people. He did in Japan, but he didn't in the United States. When he did, it killed the territory. Hey, the difference between the WWF and NWA, the opponent threw over the top rope. That did throw people to the top rope
Yeah.
in WWF.
That's been the way, I think it's the way it was from forever.
Yeah.
WWF.
But there were no dives.
Maybe it's me, but if they want it to be PC, I'd find informational more
International, more offensive than foreign.
than foreign. Yeah, for some reason they can't call it foreign object anymore. I don't know.
No, it's it's all about the border wall, and it's ridiculous. It's what it is.
Rodney's still going to wrestle the bear in Hansfield.
No, he's not, because Alabama actually has a law that you can't have bear wrestling anymore, and I had nothing to do with that much.
Those 1970 rules were hilarious, but often ignored by the heels.
To a point.
Yeah. Let's see. That is the so-called fan base, not your take. Gregory Busby, is WrestleMania is WrestleMania going to be a tag match? The main event going to be a tag
Well,
match?
it sounds like it now.
Yeah. Paul says it's only cheating if you get caught. If
That's
you
correct.
aren't cheating, you aren't trying. That's true, Paul. That's what it's all about.
And see, there used to be such an art with the bad guys denying, hiding stuff from the referee. I mean, everything now is just done in front of the referees.
Yes.
They're just window dressing. They don't really do anything.
Richard Hood said no eye gouging. Mickey Mayfield, wrestling rules. If the ref doesn't see it, it wasn't broken. That's true. Jeff Dobbs, there are no rules unless Ron West is referee. Now, I'm going to tell you, he missed a lot of stuff throughout his lifetime. I mean, we often thought that he was a little blind. We often thought that was growing up. He was the best at not catching something of any referee of the.
Randy, the referee from Rome,
Randy Anderson.
Yeah, Randy Anderson was. It was my first house show match with Continental. It was at Gadsden at the Gaston Coliseum, and we were like the opening match. It was a tag match, and I forgot what all. I don't even remember who we were in there with, but we started doing the finish where there was supposed to be a lot of heat, and Randy looks at me and he says, "Change the finish." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I've seen everything." So we did. We just changed it on the fly in there. And Randy come back and he said, "Man," he said, "I knew what to finish when it was coming up, when y'all were supposed to do that big thing." And he said, "I looked right at it."
That happened though, and when the referee saw it, there was times Dad would disqualify people, and because he saw
Yep.
it, that
Sure would.
you couldn't make the company look bad.
And if a match was real bad, I seen your dad go out and stop the whole match
You would do that.
and apologize to the crowd.
I remember when he had 2 refs for tag matches. Yes. Rules bring legitimacy to wrestling, and I agree with you.
Yep, absolutely.
Jimmy James says, hit the like button, for goodness sakes, and the love of our moms. Paul, they don't enforce choking. The ref never sticks his hand in there to make sure that the throat isn't being compromised. Yes. And a lot of times, man, they were choking them, sometimes with the old rope. Jack choked many a person down with a rope in his time.
I sure did.
Yep, that was the worst part from Timothy Truitt. Jeff Dobbs, what does the ref actually see? When does the ref actually see the rules broken? It does happen because the guy would pull the tights. The referee would come over, he'd push him back over and say, "Hey, he pulled it." And if he did it too many times, the referee would tell him, "I'm going to disqualify you." And it has been done. It has been done in wrestling, mostly in the '70s, not so much in the '80s.
Yeah.
Only after the fact from jail. Kevin Penley, to get the WWE contract, you must be huge and learn to punch and kick. I don't
It'd
even
be nice.
You left the leg slap out. It's absolutely a necessary part of their presentation.
Richard Hood said Vader would hurt people too. Yeah, he had a tendency to hurt people. Sting with Warrior. Sean Smith. They have Vinnie Mac to thank for that. I think perps somewhat maybe, but I think we can very much blame Paul Heyman more than anybody.
Yeah.
Wrestling.
Of course, now Vince did for many, many years have that policy with his announcers that they were to blame the referee for everything. And, there was even a long time period there where he didn't even want the referees' names announced.
Yeah. Jimmy James said carefully, Cody may just be your senator one day. Vinnie Mac now understands controversy equals cash from Sean Smith. AWA can't fill a parking lot from Sean Smith.
It's
Kevin Bart.
AEW, AEW. You might need a glasses print. You need to get you some
I
glasses.
think I do. This computer's too small for me, and the little thing's not working tonight. So, uh, I need a big. I need a huge that this takes up this whole space here. I'm gonna have to buy one of those. I think The Rock stops members of the Bloodline from interfering, and Cody wins the title. I don't think they'll do that.
Not yet.
No, there may be a time that he does it, but I don't think it's going to be yet. I think they'll make sure that Roman Reigns does something to The Rock because he gets jealous. I think that's what they'll do. Do that probably for next WrestleMania. Richard Hood, the WWE is going to buy out the AEW. I don't think so. They would buy them, would they?
No, there's no financial sense to that. I mean, they're riding on top of the world right now with all their TV deals.
Tony Khan doesn't know how to write an angle. His angles last 2 TV shows. Yeah, he doesn't understand he doesn't understand where am I ending and how.
Well, now here's the thing: is he will start an angle and then he will wait 6 weeks to put those same people back on again. Because I've watched the last 2 weeks, unfortunately, and man, I mean, there's stuff going on that I still remember them setting the angle up 6-8 months ago when I had watched it the last time. So nothing progresses, And their big pay-per-view with March 3rd, I think, is Sting's retirement match. That's their big push for that show. And nothing against Sting, but I got burned on the Ric Flair retirement show. I'm not doing this again.
Hey, did you see where Rodney? Did you see where old Metzer got a little upset with his friends there, the Young Bucks?
Say what? Surely not. No, I missed that.
Yeah,
tell.
He did not agree with something they did on their TV show. I don't know what it was. I don't watch the
Well,
show.
he might not have approved it.
Of course, to be fair with old Dave is the Young Bucks have never done anything I agreed with. So.
Jonathan Dorse, I think we was talking about Sting, and he said no, he's not an icon. Sean Smith said Nash might blow a quad if he goes to the show.
Yeah.
Jonathan says the Monkeys are more of an icon.
Yeah, I'm not even going to argue that.
I ain't either. Let's see. So I've always been a big fan of the Japanese feds and count Masawa as the GOAT, but until I did research, didn't know anything about them. Today's fan doesn't do good research. Now, they don't know anything about their history. There's no doubt about that. Well, I got the big part on so I can read, but now I can't turn it off. So, all right, here we go. Sting is famous for blowing his knee out while trying to climb a cage.
I remember that.
Yes. Let's see. I personally, Joe French says, I personally don't see how Sting kept a job the last 30 years. He's not going anywhere.
He had that appeal to younger people.
Richard Hood, Vader beat Sting up. Did he? I don't know. Jonathan Dorsett, best wrestling was the 80s. Let's see. Continental was underrated from Jonathan, and it was because it was great. When you look from 84 to about 80, somewhere in that 87, tremendous. They did some tremendous stuff. Dr. Philbo Grice is with us. Well, how you doing? Let's see. Robert was a great worker, not much personality from John.
Well, he does have a good personality, but he's just overshadowed by Ricky's personality.
Yes. Yeah. Michael Barr is with us. Hello, Michael. How you doing? Daniel Lang. Hey, Daniel, thank you so much for the I've got some magazines for you, Jack. to give you when I see you. So I'll get them to you. The wrestling history I'm looking at claims Randy Colley was working at Randy Collins for Goulas at the time. He probably was. He was probably working for Nick Goulas as well during this same period because man, they had a lot of people working in Memphis at the time. I mean, they had the Assassins, they had David Schultz, Dennis Condrey, and they had the Blonde Bombers there all at one time. And I believe at that same time they were working for Nick Goulas as well. Because I remember the Blonde Bombers coming to Chattanooga at the time. And I remember David Schultz, Dennis Condrey, because wouldn't that have been about the time that somewhere around that time that Dad went to Nashville and booked for
Because this 1980 was when 79, 80 was when Dad was in Knoxville.
yes, and he would go on Wednesday nights.
Schultz and Condrey, and he would go over to Nashville on Wednesday night.
The Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express with Jim Cornette was the greatest tag team rivalry, the college football, either Auburn and Alabama or Georgia and Florida. Yes,
Yeah.
it was tremendous, and no matter where they went, they drew. Sid would take would take your head out with a clothesline, and he would yell it out so you knew he was doing it. So
I took one of those.
Psycho Sid Vicious, he was a great wrestler for Michael Barr. Can you tell me something about Larry Booker, Moondog Spot? I always liked him.
He was one of the nicest guys. Absolutely one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet in business.
Now, I'll never forget, it was in Gaston, Alabama. We worked for Continental Wrestling Federation. He comes into Gaston, and he asked this question. He said, for me to be able to stay here, I'm going to have more money. And I looked at him and I said these words, man, it's been nice knowing you, but I guess you're going to have to go and leave. Because I knew they wasn't going to give him no more money. You know, and he said, what? I said, well, I appreciate everything you done. But I think you're going to be gone.
I think that was the night he left happy though, because some, as we term it in the business, rat had wanted to get with him, and he had never had that before in his entire career.
Well, at least he left happy because I don't think he even wrestled that night.
No,
I don't think so.
Left. You know, but I understand. We understood. We wasn't mad at him. We were never mad at people when they wanted to make money somewhere else. I think he went to Memphis after that. I know he didn't make no more money. I'm sorry, Jack. We are beyond blessed and grateful for all your help and the rest of the guys and ladies that helped make the show possible. That's from Michael Bohr. What is Danny Davis doing now? I think he lives in Florida now, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's just retired. He doesn't really want to have anything to do with the business anymore. Still looks good. I saw a picture of him from about a year or so ago.
Yeah, he did look good. I was. Richard had said, Jack Lord, put on the wrestling boots again. Yes, he is. That was Buddy Wayne's ring. That was on Channel 5, Memphis. Jeff asked the question, Jack, you ever going to wrestle one last match? Yes, Jack, go ahead and tell Jeff where you're going to be.
Yeah, we're going to be at Rogersville, Alabama on Saturday, March the 9th. It'll be more than likely the last match I ever do. It's just according to how many oxygen tanks they have at ringside.
Also said, ooh, trick question. He says, Spike Hubert was Dick's son-in-law and almost fell for it.
Yep.
Jeff said, your daughter is your manager. Would be nice.
My fiance is going to be my manager.
Dr. Phil Grass, I remember Ken Lucas using the sleeper on spectators in the TV audience. Yeah, he put them all to sleep. People don't think the sleeper hold was a real hold, but it was a real hold. I mean, it did work. All moves work if you put the pressure on them. Mm-hmm. They all work.
You're being corrected here, Jack. By the way, you're in Russellville.
Russellville.
Rogersville.
Okay.
That's what she's saying down there.
I get my towns confused.
Who was the best booker in the Southern Territory back in the 80s? I'm gonna give that to Ole Anderson. What do you think, Jack?
Absolutely. I mean, you guys know Ole is always been my favorite.
You know, the this was the difference of the booking between Ole Anderson and maybe a Ron Fuller. And Ole Anderson would actually, when he was booking the territory, and he would say, okay, the first three matches, okay, if Ronnie West was the assistant booker, or you take care of the first four matches that have five, I'll take care of the main event, which he was in. So they would take care of the first four, and they would tell the guys, okay, first match, this is what I want you to do. Don't throw no punches. Don't go outside the ring. Don't do anything. This is how I want you to do it. I want you to work a headlock. You work the arm. And the second match, they say, okay, the guys are working the headlock and the arm in the first match. You work the back in the second match. The third match, you work the leg because and they really spent a lot of time in booking. So Ole actually booked it. Sometimes people like Ron Fuller, Robert Fuller, people like that, they allowed each wrestler to book their own stuff, and they really didn't book the stuff. It was the Nightmares took care of their stuff while they were there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Bob Armstrong took care of all his stuff. I mean, he was the booker too. Bob was a little different. Bob did handle more of the booking of it, but people like Robert and Ron, they just what do you think you want to do? I don't know if that's actually booking. I think that's more of delegating your
Yeah.
booking. It worked for him. It worked for him. Sometimes. Sometimes it didn't.
Well, it was according to the level of talent too
Yeah.
that they were talking to.
Let's Russell and Dave Brown would do a recap of the show, and I thought they really did a good job at that. I thought the recap at the end of it was really good. I just thought Memphis show was a tremendous show at that time. Once it becomes the run-in show, not so much. Michael Barr said, "I remember in the ring when Ken Lucas with his fast-moving rabbit punches. Oh yes, that was so good. Didn't he do that? Ricky Morton stole that whole gimmick from him because Ricky Morton would do the thing where he'd do the fast and then it was
Well, he and Ricky tagged for a while
yeah.
out in Southwest, and Ricky, said that he picked almost everything he could think of from Ken.
He did. If you look at Ricky, he worked a lot like Ken
Yep.
Lucas. And there's no better person than Ken
Yep.
Lucas. He knew how to sell. He knew how to make the comeback. He knew how to do it all. Julian Smith said Lance Russell and Gordon Soley are the greatest two territory wrestling announcers ever, and I will agree with that. All right, Kayla said it was in Russellville, Alabama.
Yeah, Russellville.
So let's try. It is March 9th, Russellville, Alabama. Where is it at located?
I can't remember the name of the arena, but like I
Kayla?
say, I'll put that up tonight.
And I'll put that on there. Once you put it up, I'll go see it and I'll go pull it in and put it on there. Hasso said, I actually find Vince McMahon before he bought the WWF to be underrated, but he's still behind Soley and Russell. I liked him, but did he not do it like Howard Cosell?
Yes.
I mean, wasn't he just kind of patterned himself? Because, they wanted, he actually, Vince McMahon, when he went and when he took over, he wanted Howard Cosell to come work for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he wanted as his commentator. And Howard Cosell said, yeah, that ain't gonna ever happen, Vince. He was not going to work for Vince McMahon. He didn't have to, though.
Mm-mm.
Guys, what character did Big Red go by in San Antonio? Not for sure.
Mm-mm.
I think we already did that, didn't we? Did I go backwards? Spugnet Monroe integrated wrestling in Memphis. Yes, he did. They should make a movie on Spugnet Monroe.
Yeah, they really should. And Memphis still observes Sputnik Monroe year or Sputnik Monroe Day every year. I can't remember the date, but I know I always go through memories and make sure I share that.
The single painted thumbnail promo between him and Lawler is still golden. I guess he's talking about Jimmy Valiant. Tony Richards said Roman keeps the belt until he passes Hulk Hogan on Days as Champion at the very least. Uh, Maybe Rodney could wrestle wild hogs. Yes. Is that against the law in Hansfield, Alabama?
No, I think we can do that.
All right, there you go. Well,
Is that a team called Wild Hogs?
No,
hidden
that's
objects,
Bertha and her sister.
hidden objects under the mask, tights and boots for Michael Barr.
That's cheating, Michael.
Would Rodney put Kevin Sullivan over?
Sure, I guess we'll go with the low blow, and you'll have no choice.
Richard had said, Richard had said Pee Wee Anderson, Tony Rock, because we were talking about Randy Anderson. Rock is going to be the heel board member and family member of the Bloodline to give Cody a bigger mountain to climb as a fan of old school booking. I am glad for a longer program than usual in WWE. I agree with that. 2 ring over the top rope battle royals. I used to love those.
Mm-hmm.
They were always good. Boy, I tell you one thing I have to say about Memphis TV, though. They could have rewrapped their ropes in that real silver duct tape. Use some new tape on that thing. Yeah.
I thought the bumpers with them shooting the turnbuckle was good.
I don't get that part, but guys, didn't Jerry Lawler hit Paul Heyman for real about something? Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think it was over the scaffold match. And Paul said he would go up there and take the bump off of it. And when the night came along, he said, "No, I ain't going to go do that." I don't blame him. I wouldn't have done it either. Congrats, guys, on all getting off to a hot start on WTC. What's that? WTC. Tony Richards, the booking job.
Wrestling trivia contest.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got that. Wrestle. I didn't know what that meant. The booking job is a job all its own. Is the CO job, and nobody can do a great job at both those roles. That is true. You cannot be a booker and run the company too. It doesn't work that way. Do I need to get a new angle to be seen here? Continental was very underrated. Richard Hood, Sting, in my opinion, didn't have passion for the business in the beginning. From Richard Hood. Guys, I thought Assassin 2, guys, I thought it was Roger Smith, Assassin 2 with Joe. Nope, that was Randy Colley in Atlanta. Especially in Atlanta. We know that. Tim Truitt, hey guys, just listening in for a little bit. I hope everyone is doing well.
That is Timothy Truitt is Extreme Heat. He's a part of our show coming up.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Tony Richards, didn't Nick Goulas go out of business prior to 1980? I think it was 1980 when he went out of business, wasn't it? Or maybe like the summer
I believe so.
of 1980. Wouldn't Chattanooga have been part of the Georgia territory at the time? I don't think so. Not yet. I'm pretty sure
it isn't. It's still in 1980. Yes, because primarily, let's see, the Robert Fuller was booking in Georgia when they first went to Georgia, from when they went to Chattanooga. First, because the first card was Wrestling 2 against Harley Race in Chattanooga. It was the first card. It was the first main event. But that was later in the 80s that happened.
Yeah, I think it was in the late. It's some part in the middle of there, because I do know they were around because for a long time Gorgeous George Jr. was in the main events with Bobby Eaton right at the end. So I believe Jerry took Nashville. I think that would have been sometime in the 80s, and it's Russellville, not Rogersville. Let's see, little out of your area, but does anyone know Sailor White from Quebec? I've seen him.
Mm-hmm.
So is that going to be a pay-per-view? Yeah, when you go there, you pay, and you'll be able to view it. That was a little smart, Jeff. I'm sorry. That's what Rodney always used to tell people. He said, "This is a pay-per-view tonight."
I always tell everybody this is a pay-per-view. You pay and then you view. boys. And then they go, oh, I said, is it, because they always say, is it really? I said, I don't see any cameras or anything. I said, well, no, you pay to view. And so there you have it, pay per view.
I'm going to go through these real quick because we're running out of time here. Tony Ridger said, I think Bill Watts and Bill Dundee combo from 1983-85 is the best bookie in the South of the 80s. And it was. It was good. Jeremy Richter, why did the Pro Wrestling USA merger fail in the mid-'80s? Did it ever have a chance to succeed? We've talked about that. None of us thought it would ever.
Too many egos.
Yeah, that was not going to work. Because who was going to run it? Every one of them would want to run it. Kayla said it's the Ralph Bishop Rec Center, 201 Ash Avenue, Russellville, Alabama. So, how far is Russellville from Dothan, Alabama?
4.5 hours probably.
Hey, Richard Hood said Big Red's name was Voodoo.
I was thinking he was some kind of voodoo guy, but I couldn't remember because I get him sometimes confused with that voodoo lady there on the Gorgeous Ladies of Merit Wrestling.
Hey, I always liked that character.
She was good.
Well, Rodney, if that is cheating, then I must have been very bad heel. Michael Barr.
So that's illegal. We read the rules to you earlier, Michael. That is against the rules.
Why didn't they use the ring steps instead of a chair to get into the Memphis studio ring? I guess they didn't have. A lot of places didn't have steps. No, none of the spy shows had them. Oh, Tim says, no, that's Jack. That's Hustler, not Extreme Heat. Hustler, Tim Truitt.
Timothy Truitt is his son. He's the one. He commented earlier, though.
Oh, okay.
I'm surprised Tim's up this late because he's so old.
Great program here tonight, Brent Rodney. I enjoy watching Pro Wrestling Inside Out. Thank you so much. And we will leave with that. Rodney, any final comments before we leave?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have very bad news. This past week, Gunther was doing an interview, and he talked about the tremendous sacrifice that he has to put his life through so that he can entertain you. Apparently, he went to the Cody Rhodes School of Interviews, in which feel sorry for me because I have to go to work at night. Feel sorry for me because I have a schedule that I have to keep. Feel sorry for me. This is a terrible schedule. I have to be away from my new baby and my new child, my wife. It's just a terrible situation. Mr. Gunther, give the belt and go home. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. If you don't want to do the job and you'd rather stay home with family, then do so. McDonald's is hiring.
But would he really be able to stay at home with family?
No, he'll still have
to work somewhere, don't you?
I find him and any other idiot that's standing out there saying what a tremendous sacrifice they're making because they have to work. Big whoop, Gunther. Pucker up and kiss a lot of them, mister. He is an idiot. Complete moron. Standing out there. Oh, I'm being abused by my boss. Lord have mercy.
Well, you know that does happen in WWE.
Oh my gosh. Apparently he must have had a crying section with Cody because Cody said the same thing. Oh, what a sacrifice it is for me. Take a sacrifice and go home. Leave us all alone.
Jack,
we're such a toucher. It's such a torture for him.
Jack, any final comments before
I'm not bitter about it.
No, I'm having too much fun listening to Rodney. Oh.
Hey,
thanks everybody. If you can come out to the show on March 9th, come out. Would love to see you. I may need to do a GoFundMe for hospital expenses when it's over with, but
folks, I want to thank the folks at eMeat. Thank you so much, very much. I've been forgetting to talk about them, and they've allowed us to give us a very powerful camera in a little bitty thing that ain't it. That's a very powerful camera, though. for what it will do.
Well,
Thank
I want to
you.
tell you right now is if you had to put Gunther in front of it, the amount of sacrifice that he would have to do to come in front of that camera, it's unbearable.
Can you remember back years ago the cameras had to be you couldn't even fit the camera that you'd have to use to do something in this thing. It'd be
No,
huge.
no.
Can you believe what they've come to today? These days,
Oh, one more thing I want to have to mention, and I know we got to go, but
yeah.
I've got to say I've got to send out some regards. I'm very worried about Kevin Von Erich. Kevin Von Erich praised Tony Khan and called him a genius.
Well, his boys are trying to get a contract there, so
Well, that's not hard. They have to go to the WWE first, but that's another story.
Hey, why haven't they ended up in WWE? It's just they won't go to the
I don't
studio.
know. They were in the MLW for quite a while, and they were on AEW. I think Saturday night. I think they and Dustin Rhodes tagged up for a 6-man tag match.
Oh, I got you. All right, so
There's a lot of praise for Tony. He's a genius. Can you imagine anybody calling phony Tony a genius?
Well, he's pretty smart to have conned all them millions out of his dad. So.
there's some truth to that. Thank y'all so much. We certainly do appreciate it. Just last month, over 7 million people, 7 million unique counts came to our Facebook page, and we certainly do appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll see everybody next week right here on Pro Wrestling Inside.